Got it, Zoom lady. Okay.
Okay, welcome everyone to the Word Power Writers Workshop. I have a special guest with us today, Laura Reid, who is a writer and storytelling and speaking coach. Thanks so much for being here with us today, Laura. So excited to write with you. Uh, to get it started, I wanted to ask you, when did you start writing, and was there someone or something that inspired you to start writing?
Mm. I started writing before I really started speaking. Oh, it's such an honor to be here, and thank you for having me. I'm really excited to get writing too today and see what comes out of this. I grew up with a severe stutter and it didn't really start speaking fluently until honestly like 10 years ago. It was when I would say I felt more confident in being able to get in front of people and really speak. So ironically, yeah, I'm a speaker now. Is one of the things that I do. But as a child, I felt like I had a lot to say, a lot of stories to tell. It was interesting before this started today. I was going through this file of like old writing. It just said old writing. I haven't opened that up in so long, that was all like musty and everything. But I had some things that I wrote from way back, like early middle school, I would say. And the teacher, I remember, would always write "see me after class" because he thought that I was plagiarizing. He said that the topics were just too adult for my age. It was like I wrote a lot about depression and anxiety and ghosts and fear and all these things. I think because I experienced that at a very young age. I think not being able to really speak fluently, and that was my biggest wish as a child, that, and of course a pony, but I also just wanted to be able to speak. But that led me to writing, because at least then I could share the words I wanted to share, and I could express myself on paper and in some way, and there was a fluidity there. So I really fell in love with it as a way to tell stories, and that's always been with me.
Wow, I love that. What, and man, I wonder where that teacher is today,
Yeah, Mr.
Like,
Applegate. Still, yeah.
got a lot of nerve.
Yeah, right. I don't think I knew what plagiarism really was back then, but.
Wow, what a great story. Um, and and the other question I had for you was, do you have a daily writing practice or schedule? And if so, how did you develop that? What does that look like for you?
You'd think I'd have my, together by now. I mean, I'm in my 50s, for Christ's sakes. Like, I should have an idea of when is good for me to write. But we were just talking about that earlier. I keep playing around with it because I love the idea of getting up really early at dawn and meditating and praying and then writing before I start anything else. And daily I still love that idea, and yet it doesn't really manifest itself. I get up and I need my coffee, and then that starts a whole thing, and I get distracted by my phone. But every day I do dedicate some time to write or to think about writing. But I've decided to let myself off the hook a bit and just be easier on myself. And we all have time, and time is very fluid. And I've started looking at time as more of a landscape that's already existing. You know what I mean? Like a painting that's happened. And I'm just at this one point of it. And everything that's happened has already happened. And I can just imagine, like, my book is written and all the writing has been done already. And I just need to be present in that point of that landscape. And I know that's not a very practical answer to your question, but I think that what works best is not to put ourselves into these boxes of like very regimented writing times, but to realize that we have the time and to go with that flow and inspiration. And then as I start writing, that's when the motivation really comes, when I'm actually in the act of it, rather than just like, oh, now is the time I'm starting.
Wow, yeah, I love that metaphor of the painting. And really it sounds like just having that trust and faith in yourself and in the process. That's really beautiful.
Yeah, and there'll be a part in that painting where our story ends. And this is kind of how I viewed grief too, and losing people in my life who I've really loved, is that they were a part of this beautiful landscape of my life, but there was always a time when, that ends, but they're still there. They still exist in that landscape. um and that's just how I like to use that metaphor for a lot of things like that to help. Yeah.
That's a great metaphor. I love metaphors as a writer.
Yeah.
A real sucker for them. Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
And being gentle with yourself. Yeah, and that ebb and flow of our creativity. We're not robots. We're human.
Yeah, absolutely. And just really trusting your gut on it, because I do believe enthusiasm and passion for a certain project or something you want to write, whether it's a haiku or a novel, there's a shelf life to that passion and enthusiasm. And if we don't trust ourselves enough and kind of lean in towards it and actually get it out there written on a page so it's real, and then put it out there into the universe, then it will lose it. There is, I do think that these things come to us and we need to acknowledge them, notice them, and trust that. And when we're too regimented in our schedule, we can miss that. And so I think being open is really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, the next question I have for you is, what do you love most about writing?
Hmm. I love being able to share my writing and have it affect someone else, like have someone get it, whether they are inspired by something, or they've had a similar experience, or the story, they can relate to it in some way. Almost everything I've ever written has been based on real experiences. So I'm definitely lean more towards the nonfiction element, because for that reason too, because I think when we can write something and share it out there about an experience, no matter how crazy it might seem, and someone else can relate to it, it's really special. There's a special connection that comes through writing that we don't get in any other way. And I love that there's a certain power in it, that we can create and share and impact. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. That's one of the things I love about it too.
Yeah. And why we're all here now too together, it's that it forms it forms a special connection, I think, with people that are drawn together through that love and passion for writing.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of nonfiction, creative nonfiction. Obviously, that's always kind of been the focus of this workshop, and it
Mhm.
is really special. You're sharing a piece of yourself when you're writing about true stories, the life experience, and sharing that with other writers and getting to hear their stories. It really creates this connection that's
Yeah.
unique and special.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, just a couple more questions.
Okay.
Um, so, do you have any advice you would give to other writers, or people that are maybe looking to get into writing or maybe feeling stuck? Is there anything that's been helpful for you, or words of wisdom that maybe someone else has shared with you along your journey that you found helpful?
One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was actually a long time ago. It was in this writing workshop in Washington, D.C. I remember taking the metro and being in this professor's house on like Saturday mornings, I think it was, and we all got together and were prompted to write and share. And I remember something I wanted to write about, and I said something like, "Oh, I think this is what I want to write about," to him, but I don't really want to go there. And he said, there is exactly where you need to go. Like, and when you hear yourself saying, oh, that's a little too like raw still, or painful, or whatever it is that was, you think is too dark, it's like that's where you need to shine a light, and get it out there and write it. So I love that piece of advice. And that same professor also told me once, when I was worried about the details being correct, and not nonfiction. I think that's around when A Million Little Pieces came out, that book. And, it was like Oprah's like, a big fan. And then it turned out not all the facts were right. And the author was really shamed for that. And, imagine being shamed by Oprah. Oh my God, that'd be the worst. And so, I remember being worried, like, oh, this isn't quite right. That might not be quite right. I don't remember. And he said, don't tell it as it was, tell it as it must have been. So maybe that's not great for the fact checkers, but at the same time, even just those vivid details in there, that as you remember it in your experience and not worried about being judged by your family having a different story or whoever else, just tell it as it must have been in your experience and really own it. So I started taking out all those words that, oh, I think it was like this, or I believe, or probably, or being vague, and just owning it. No, this is how it was. That sunset was freaking orange and purple that night, and this was, and just owning that story as I relive it.
I love that. There is where you need to go. Really,
Yeah.
really good advice. I know I struggle with that in my writing, like not feeling like things are sometimes too much, or people are going to judge me and maybe I should play it safer. Um,
Yeah.
but then thinking about, anything I've ever read or been impacted, by something that someone else has done has always been something that's been in that place of there, where
Yeah,
you're moved by their vulnerability.
absolutely. No one ever changed the world being subtle,
Mhm.
or being worried about being judged. And the thing is, yeah, you might be judged, but who cares? Like, so what? And what other people think is, none of your business. I know that's like, I've heard that, saying out there a lot, and it's so true. I think when it comes down to it, no one is really judging us or thinking about us. We're all way too self-involved as human beings to
Mhm.
think too much about other people, unfortunately. But if they are, and I've definitely felt judged in my life, but um, who cares? Really, there's more important things. You just got to rise above and see that bigger picture of that landscape, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another good point too that you mentioned about not worrying about the details being totally, factually correct, that it's a work of creative nonfiction. And I read a lot of memoirs, and I just, a couple months ago, I read this book, Aftershocks, um, by Nadia Owusu, and she had a really great note in the beginning of the book that was like, the events in here are, true as remembered by me and my experience, and that doesn't mean that how someone else remembers them is necessarily incorrect, so there it seems like I appreciate when people kind of have a note about that, because
Mm.
it just creates space for everybody's version of the
Yeah.
story.
Beauty of a disclaimer. You can always have that,
Yeah.
and yeah, frees you up.
Okay, and so the last thing I wanted to ask you is, tell us about your work as a writer and a coach. I'm gonna put your website in the chat for people who would like to learn more about Laura. Storyforth.io.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm just in the middle of a big rebrand, but that site will still be good for now. But yes, like I said, growing up with a stutter, and not having my voice, like literally people talk about finding your voice, but for me it was such a literal journey to do that. And ironically, I found it in the most unlikely place, which was on a stage in front of a microphone at storytelling contests. And think The Moth, but it was like that. I lived near Ithaca, New York for a long time, and we had our own version of The Moth, and I started entering those contests. And the first time I got up and told a story, it was incredibly empowering. So really weird thing, like stuttering it's a very strange thing. People don't really have it figured out exactly why and how we do it. I believe it's hereditary. My father stuttered, my grandfather stuttered, my son stutters. So there's definitely something there. It can be very biological and not always tied to I'm just nervous, right? It can just come up at any time. Um, but there are devices that sometimes you have, like there's echo in your ear or little things that help you be more fluid. Something about being in front of the microphone I didn't realize, but it helped me speak more fluidly. So I'm like, oh, wow, okay. And then as I told the stories, it was incredibly empowering to be up on a stage. I mean, I had dreamed of being an actress when I was young, and my self-doubt outweighed that dream. But being up on a stage was like, yes, this is where I'm meant to be. And I started winning those contests. So it was kind of validating, helped build up my contests. And then eventually people would come up after me and say, wow, because you shared that story, I'm going to share mine. And I started realizing that there's this Joseph Campbell quote: the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Right. So I had entered that cave and found my treasure, which was my voice. And I got all excited about that. Oh my gosh, I can finally speak and tell my stories. But it was not meant for me to keep that treasure. And when I realized that that treasure was really meant for me to give it away, that was my purpose. That changed everything. And I realized that after decades of researching how to get over public speaking fear, having speaking therapy myself, that I could share. I knew the game changers, for me, and they're not what you're going to Google and find out there. Imagine your audience naked and all that. Ew, no. But there are real things that can help you be more empowered and confident when you're up there. And it's not an absence of fear, it's acknowledging fear, embracing it, right? Going there, but doing it anyway. That to me is true courage, is getting up there and despite the feelings of fear and nervousness. And so that's what led me to being a speaking coach, so I can help others who are fearful but have a story to tell. And then I've been studying storytelling techniques for many years. I'm total geek with it. I was an English major in school and have a master's in teaching. I've always loved teaching, and I used to teach for many years, young children. And that's what led me to do what I do today. So I can help get people's stories out there. I especially like to work with business owners and entrepreneurs so that they can use storytelling as a marketing technique and not ever feel salesy or weird about it. But we all do what we do for a reason. We all have a beautiful backstory. So I think getting those stories out there can be a really beautiful and authentic way to grow your connection with your clients, and in turn grow your business.
Right on. Yeah. And Laura is amazing at what she does. And I understand you have a free gift you're going to be giving away.
I
And
do. I'll put it in the chat.
okay,
Yes.
awesome. And
Yeah.
then oh, did you want me to draw? I was going to do a drawing.
Okay, another three. I should just, yeah, sure. So that I have you can sign up for a free a 30-minute consult with me for all of you. If you want me to help you craft your story to get out there and be on a stage, whether it's a TED Talk or Moth or networking group or whatever it is, or because there is a difference definitely in the narrative style and then speaking it out there. And I challenge myself a lot through speaking contests still with Toastmasters, international speech contests, that type of thing. I help my clients with that too. So I'd be happy to help you with that. And then for the free drawing, it would be a 90-minute private class with me to help you really craft that, edit it, practice whatever you want to do. I also would encourage you, if you're interested in speaking more, Toastmasters is an amazing place to kind of mess up and like a safe place to practice speaking. It's very affordable as well. So you're welcome to come to my club. It's virtual, and be my guest at that. And then I also have a podcast that I co-host with my boyfriend, Kane. And it's called the Backstory Podcast. And, both of us as professional speakers, we love interviewing other top speakers and world champions of public speaking for selfish reasons. So we can gain their tips and techniques and learn more. So we've interviewed a ton of incredible speakers and also writers. And actually, Emily is going to be on the podcast coming up next month.
So excited.
And so, yeah, you can also join our podcast. It's a private Facebook group right now. And it's called the Backstory Podcast with Kane and Laura. But I'll put that link up there too, and hopefully we'll see you there.
Great. And I'm going to do a quick live drawing for your free gift. So this is the 90-minute session with you to help someone craft their story to be able to deliver it in a presentation or a speech. And I'm going to take off my hat here.
Oh, you had it in your hat the whole time.
Put them in the hats. Okay. All right. Okay. Oh, David.
Yay.
You are the lucky winner. So you and Laura can get together after, you guys can connect after the workshop. Having a bad hair day, so I'm gonna put this back on.
Oh, you never have a bad hair day, girl. Goodness.
Yeah, thank you so much, Laura. Please put that info in the chat, the Backstory podcast. Check out her podcast. I've listened to a number of episodes. It's really, really great people she has on there. A lot of fun.
Yeah, it is really fun.
And that is it. I'm gonna stop